Welcome to today's live chapter reading of Boy Released by JD Spero. JD Spero. Summer of 2001. Part of Hen couldn't wait to be an adult. Another part felt like he'd always been an adult, even when his young self was shaken like a snow globe and all the flecks still floated in the water, taking their sweet time to settle, paying no mind to the proper order of things. And in a few months, as soon as he became a legal adult, his whole world would change, and the changes would be epic. For one, he'd become a millionaire, and two, he'd have to figure out what to do with the money. Kids shouldn't have to worry about this kind of stuff, not with so much work to do. Hen knocked on the cabin number 2 before using the master key to let himself in. He'd blitz this place in no time, before the renters got back from breakfast or wherever. Then he could take his time with the vacancies. Yeah, motel life. Part of the shakeup. 4 years ago, his little life in the sleepy town of Severance was upended when Mom and Bernie bought Blue Palms Motel in Lake George Village, and Hen, at 13, made it his summer job to clean the cabins. Why? Mom needed help. It had taken us every summer since. But Hen knew Mom had worked her whole life for an opportunity like this. Bernie stumbled on the motel for sale in a thriving tourist area at a bargain. A dream come true, according to Mom. It's only a half-hour south, Mom had said at Hen's initial reluctance. And then, look, the Queen of American Lakes is right across the street from your new school. On his tippy toes, Hen saw a sliver of the lake a half-mile away, past the other dozen motels and restaurants and t-shirt shops. You're right, I can see it. Keyword, see. Nature teased them from afar. It was too expensive to go out on the water by boat. Needed a car to get to hiking trails. Wildlife lived elsewhere. So much stuff blocked the way, and the animals stayed hidden in the woods. Hen hardly blamed them. Streetlights, not trees, surrounded their motel on the outskirts of Lake George Village. Hen's childhood was filled with trees, and he missed them. Oh, Hen, what do you mean there are no trees? We're surrounded by mountains. Trees are everywhere. Mom didn't feel their absence, but he did. Oddly, cleaning cabins seemed an extension of what he'd been doing the past 10 years. Helping Mom, making things better, wiping away the dirt of their past, putting a shine on the ugliness that plagued their family. That 10-year nightmare still haunted him. Compared to that, toilets were pristine. So if she needed him to be the maid at her new adventure, he'd be the dang maid. Still, he'd place bets. He was the only kid in his high school who cleaned toilets for his summer job. Even his best friend Wesley, whose folks owned the fancy waterfront resort down the street, had been spared housekeeping chores. Leaving the cabin door open as he worked, he switched on ESPN to catch the Yankees highlights from last night's game. Ever since Bernie splurged and took him to Yankee Stadium shortly after moving here, he'd faithfully rooted for the heroes in pinstripes, as Bernie called them. But his true love would always be basketball. One of his best-kept secrets? He was a Celtics fan. Hen caught his reflection in the mirror as he Windexed. His shirt read, "I'd rather be playing basketball." How true. He tossed the paper towel in the bin. Swish! 2 points! This might be his last summer helping out at the motel anyway. Next summer was graduation, and of course, the millions. Sally Hubbard's inheritance had been hanging over his head for the past decade, like a gray-green cloud. Whenever Mom talked about it, she got so emotional. Hen avoided the topic. Seemed unreal anyway, like a story in a book. Sally Hubbard. Miss Sally. A hollow ache crept in at the thought of her, even with her long gone. Hen focused on concrete things like the layout of her house, the blue willow dishes she had used, her polka dot socks. It was of no use. Lots of unhappy feelings clouded his memories, his brother Tyler taking up a lot of the space. Maybe that was why the hollow ache. A family-sized box of Cheez-Its sat next to the TV. Hen's mouth watered. The clock told him he had at least another hour before any reasonable human ate lunch. Hen's stomach paid no mind to the clock, though, always begging loudly for food. He'd gotten fast at bed-making, especially when he didn't have to switch sheets. As he tucked in the last corner, a shadow blocked the doorway, giving him a start. A woman, sudden and silent, wearing of all things a Red Sox cap. Oh, Hen quickly shut off ESPN. Though she seemed a similar age, she had none of Mom's beauty or softness. She frowned accusingly. "Do you work here?" Hen glanced at the bin of cleaning supplies at his feet. "Yep." He checked himself. "Sorry, I'll be out of your way in a few minutes." The woman clicked her tongue. No, no, no. This isn't my room. I was just in the office. No one's in there. I rang the bell. Still no one. I was hoping to get a room. Could you help?" Hen pulled off his gloves. "Sure. When were you hoping to stay?" "Tonight and through the weekend." "You want a room for this weekend?" Hen's incredulous tone was a reflex. Memorial Day weekend kicked off the summer season, always booked solid months in advance. "Is that a problem?" Her demeanor matched the offending sports logo on her cap. Hen checked himself again. His gaze swept the cabin, which would have to pass for clean. He gave the woman a smile. "Why don't we go back to the office to check the register?" Locking up cabin 2, Hen left his cleaning bin on the stoop and made his way across the parking lot, the Red Sox lady quick on his heels. The empty office was expected. With a book full of reservations, Mom caught up on planting annuals while Bernie had gone out for pool supplies. Hen made a big show of studying the register. "Sorry, ma'am, we're full." "Full?" "That's right, no vacancies." She looked out the window. "There aren't any cars. How can you be full?" "All the cabins are reserved, ma'am. This is the first weekend of the summer. It's always a busy weekend in Lake George." "What about just tonight?" He faked a sigh. "Sorry." An exasperated grunt, and she craned to look across the lot. She tapped the window glass. "What about that one, on the end?" Hen would have bet she'd asked that. Folks never believed the motel was ever totally full. Uncanny. And they always asked for the one on the end, cabin 11. As if being last made it somehow undesirable and therefore up for grabs. Truth told, it did look a little sad and neglected way over there. Though he expected the question, he felt a jolt. Any mention of cabin 11 triggered that response. Hen swallowed and remembered his manners. Still, he couldn't help the wobble in his voice. "No, ma'am, that one is definitely not available. And never will be," Hen wanted to add. A dark feeling swam in his gut, knowing cabin 11 was occupied indefinitely by none other than his brother Tyler, who was recently released from institutional rehab. Ty forced hot coffee down his throat as he stared out the window of cabin 11. Windows. Microsoft had windows. Very different from the ones in front of him now. Computers had taken over the world while he burrowed deep within the state hospital, incarcerated, rehabilitation. A lot of time passed, 10 years, and by the end, everything blinked digital. He got out a month ago like he'd woken from a coma. Bits of his brain held on to his life there in the hospital, clung like barnacles. They'd programmed it that way. Computers worked in mysterious ways. He didn't know why he'd been programmed to come here, to this strange motel so far from the home he remembered. It didn't matter where he slept, or ate, or existed. Shame followed him, colored him purple, like a thick, toxic paint on his skin. Beneath that, he was numb. He drank more coffee and stared at the world outside. Along the pool fence, Marcella, it didn't feel right to call her mother, squatted at a flower bed, planting tiny pink flowers Ty recognized as impatiens. Sounded like impatience. They'd die over the winter, and then she'd have to plant them again next year. His gaze found the solitary cloud in the big blue sky, which looked the same here as from the state hospital. Every day, different variations of the same sky. Computers programmed it that way. They controlled everything. He knew that now. Used to be security cameras. Those tiny red lights like beady lizard eyes, watching his every move, recording stuff, his life. An ongoing reality television show produced by aliens. It took a long time to let that go. Until one day when he passed by the admin office and, through another window, he noticed computers everywhere. Every single person on a computer. Not only the big box ones that sat on desks with separate keyboards, but some smaller ones that opened like books. On one screen, he saw his own image, right where he stood in the hallway. The security cameras leaked to the computers. More evidence they controlled everything. Quite a learning moment for Ty. Then, the terrifying countdown to the Y2K crisis. The news talked about how, when the calendar flipped to the year 2000, all computers would explode or implode. Didn't matter, the result would be the same. And because computers controlled everything, everything would be destroyed. Systems would crash, planes would fall from the sky, social security numbers would reconfigure randomly, astronauts and all space travel would vaporize, digital media would blink out of order. The world would explode too, and all the people in it. Ty still waited for the bomb to drop, even if the calendar already read 2001. They, all of them, tried to reassure him that the news stations and tech people had it wrong, that the Millennium New Year passed peacefully. Thanks to some pre-planning by some very bright programmer, the hardware and software that hardwired our society was protected. No one talked about it anymore, not on news stations either. But Ty knew how sneaky these computers were, how smart. It would be too convenient to do it on the 2000 New Year. It would be late, the implosion that would mean the end of the world. Like any day now, impending doom still threatened. A harsh reality. That's why Ty refused to have a personal mobile device. Also why he stopped smoking. Dr. Asner and his social worker, Sheila, both said it was because he'd been hypnotized at rehab. But Ty didn't believe in hocus-pocus stuff. It was the computers. Programmers rewired his brain to take out the smoking addiction. Made it smell and taste really gross overnight. Coffee was another story. Kind of. Another gulp of coffee, wincing as it went down, watching outside. Hen emerged from cabin number 2, giving Ty a start. Across the lot toward the office, some lady following. Still had to get used to seeing Hen all grown up. That teenager, almost a man, used to be his baby brother. Ty searched the mini fridge and found a Gatorade. Took his pill with it. Tasted weird after coffee. He should eat something. Mini fridge was mostly bare, out of food. He'd eat something at work. He pulled on khakis and a white-collared shirt, his unofficial store uniform. Another look out the window, his heart pounding. He had to go out there soon. He had to expose himself, give in to the computers. Marcella still poked and plugged at the flower bed. Was Hen still in the office with that lady? He didn't see her car anymore, the one with the Massachusetts license plate. He panned the rows of cabins. Hen's bin of cleaning supplies abandoned outside on the curb. He'd rather not run into his brother, but he had to get to Mini Chopper. Bill expected him there to stock the shelves. A slight panic simmered deep in his spine. Had to hurry before it traveled through his head. Quick, he checked his pocket for his wallet and key. Double-checked, triple-checked. His heart thrummed, fear taking root. He had to go now. Go now. Go now. Whoosh! Outside, the door closed behind him, set to lock automatically. An auxiliary wave of panic made him recheck for the key. Okay. There, safe in his pocket. Wallet too. All okay. It's okay. He paused to let his breathing settle and his heart rate to normalize.